They are suffering, they are sick, they are dying. Many of them are traumatized. They are hundreds of thousands of Anglophone Cameroonians kicked out of their homes in the northwest and southwest regions of the country by the deepening Anglophone crisis, and they are now seeking refuge in neighboring Nigeria. In this newscast, a special envoy to Nigeria narrates the horrible stories of the Cameroonians seeking refuge in Nigeria, and the government of the Republic of Cameroon battles to reduce state expenditure. The Prime Minister has placed restrictions on traveling abroad for top state officials. Stay with us. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babli Jonathan. We begin with news from the south region of the Republic of Cameroon, where at least 4 persons, and not 19, as earlier reported, have died in a road accident on the Deya Kribi Highway. This, of course, in the south region of the country, and the accident occurred earlier today. The bus belonging to Transcam Travel Agency, in which the victims were traveling, left Kribi in the Ocean Division of the south region of the country and was heading to Yaoundé, and the bus unfortunately ended on the way in an accident that left at least 4 of the occupants dead on the spot, and in inevitable collision between that bus and another vehicle left several persons equally severely injured in that accident, which occurred earlier today. And now on to one of our lead stories. I told you many of them are suffering, many of them are sick, many are dying. These are Anglophones, hundreds of thousands of them kicked out of their homes in the northwest and southwest regions of the country by the deepening Anglophone crisis, and they are now seeking refuge in neighboring Federal Republic of Nigeria. And coming up, a special envoy to Nigeria, Stella Mbu, narrates their horrible stories.
Behind these faces, struggling to survive in the midst of nothing, away from their homeland, are terrible stories of how they got here.
I was selling in Bamenda as they burned at the Bamenda food market. They burned all my shops. That is, I am just standing with my children.
My name is Aga Rachel. I be widow. My husband.
I am Aga Rachel. I am a widow. I lost my husband in the crisis. I stayed in the bush for 2 weeks before escaping to Nigeria. I was living with a Nigerian called Alaji. He gave me money to send my children to my father because of difficult living conditions.
Send transport. Send me and go meet my papa because of ways of living.
Despite government's disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration move, among other measures, to lay to rest what is today known in the Anglophone regions as the battle for independence, the crisis in these regions has continued to render many hungry and homeless. It is an event that will not be forgotten in a hurry by anyone who lives it. They have continued to count the losses incurred so far.
I come from Akwaya, and I left many things. They burned my bike from Akwaya subdivision. Is there. I helped myself through that bike, and I have a house, a 6-room house. Everything has been destroyed. So my farms, I also have a cocoa farm. Everything is over.
I just believe that God will take care of the situation. My goats and my cocoa farm have been destroyed.
The Agadom refugee camp in Ogoja local government area, Cross River State in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has been home to thousands of Cameroonians fleeing from insecurity in their homeland. Although they have a place where the fear of being killed by bullets is far from preoccupying them, they are in desperate need for potable water, healthcare, food, education, just to name a few.
The Chinese fire will suffer.
We are suffering a lot. No food, no place to sleep, and no water.
When you get water, 1 day we will suffer 4 days.
The people who live in the camp depend greatly on donors like the Aya Foundation for survival. The foundation is a Cameroonian-based non-governmental organization which has been reaching out to refugees as well as internally displaced persons. Recently, their humanitarian gesture extended not only to the refugees with food and other household necessities, but to the refugee students and pupils with books and school uniforms. A move appreciated by Mr. Opa Nupong, Principal of Government Technical College, Ogoja.
The students need to be on uniform so that we can identify our students. Like as it is now, if any foreign body stray into the school, we cannot really detect immediately. But once all of them are on uniform, once anybody stray in, we can fish out the person immediately.
Despite the challenges faced along the road passing within localities during crossfire, the foundation has continued to make these trips.
We understand what it takes, we understand what it means for someone to be out of his country with just the clothes he has on him. We understand the comfort in which we find ourselves back home, even amidst the war. However dangerous it is doing what we are doing, we just have to keep it coming. But more importantly, they have to get back to the country, and they cannot do that unless there is a call for a ceasefire and the war gets to an end. They are better off back home than here.
The Agadom refugee settlement is 1 out of 4 in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, host to thousands of fleeing Cameroonians. The refugee hosting communities are living under the poverty line and in dire need of assistance themselves, as their ability to help is being stretched to the limit.
Many of the refugees and the internally displaced persons are living in precarious and even deadly conditions, depending on men and women of goodwill and non-governmental organizations, and the Aya Foundation has been at the forefront visiting the refugees in the bushes and other parts of the country, but also, as you saw in that report, in neighboring Nigeria. The Aya Foundation is, of course, the only non-governmental organization that has so far visited the refugees in Nigeria. Even government authorities have not been there to see the situation of the refugees. And of course, we'll continue talking about the situation of the refugees and the internally displaced persons with the church that has also been taking some measures and actions to bring some aid, and of course to encourage the persons affected by the deepening Anglophone crisis, with men of God like Bishop Michael Bibi, the auxiliary bishop of Bamenda in the northwest region of the country, who was recently in the Menka, a village in the Momo division of the northwest region of the country. And during his pastoral visit, the persons displaced by the crisis who are now living in the bushes urged government to find a solution to that crisis. Smanjikan Gebre now takes us through the journey of Father Bibi in the bushes in Menka village.
The auxiliary bishop of Bamenda, His Lordship Michael Bibi, dressed in white, moves under the rain in the forest as he heads for a pastoral visit. The ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest region has forced many to remain in the forest, and according to the bishop, they can't be abandoned, reasons while he trekked for more than 3 hours under the rain in order to meet with the people of Menka village of Momo division. The bishop will later make the rest of his journey on the commercial motorcycle of the parish priest of St. Paul's Kwashi Catholic Church in a very poor road network. Upon his arrival, the Christians were pleased with the visit of the bishop, hoping that their prayers of putting the crisis to an end will finally have an answer from the Almighty.
And non-governmental organizations have continued bringing some aid to the internally displaced persons, including, of course, the Aya Foundation and even the Belinda Babler Foundation, who have been calling on governments to do everything possible to restore normalcy in the two Anglophone regions of the country so that the refugees and those who are in the bushes can return to their homes. And despite the threats from the pro-independence fighters and the security challenges, the Limbe People's Festival finally took place, but amid tight security. As our correspondent in Limbe, Davidson Maimo reports.
Despite gunshot in the morning of Saturday, the 6th of April, that lasted for close to 45 minutes between unidentified gunmen and the forces of law and order at the Maitu neighborhood in Limbe. The Limbe Festival of Art and Culture went on unperturbed as security was reinforced with elements from the elite unit of the Cameroon military, the B. The festival saw a beautiful parade of the festival caravan from the National Comprehensive College at Maiwan, passing through half mile to the festival ground at the Limbe Community Field, pulling huge crowd that came out, adding more color to the festival. Speaking to the over 1,000-man crowd, from the old, the young, of all walks in life, the vision bearer of the Limbe Festival of Art and Culture, Limbe Festac, the government delegate to Limbe City Council, Mutanga Andrew Monjimba, Limbe Festac is a unifying factor, not just to the people of Limbe, but the entire nation, and it has come to stay.
Nobody can deprive the people of Limbe of their festival of arts and culture. Limbe Festac is by the people. Limbe Festac is for the people. Limbe Festac belongs to the people.
Representing the Minister of Art and Culture, Southwest Governor Bernardo Kalia Bilai congratulates the people of Limbe in promoting what he described as not just the culture of Cameroon, but that of the entire Africa, given that the Togolese, Beninois, and Nigerian community living in Limbe are equally taking part.
The population of the beautiful city of Limbe and young, that of the Southwest, are simply a victim of the negative and misguided ideas of some proclus Cameroonians, especially within those living out of the country, and their local accomplices to impose their strange ideas on this religion. And they say they will never succeed.
This, the people of Limbe and its environs will have to savour different cultural and traditional dance beats and steps from different tribes drawn from all the regions of the country living in Limbe. The festival, which is in its 6th edition, is having a heavy deployment of security forces within the festival ground at the community field, given that some separatists through the social media have called for a total boycott of the festival and a 10-day lockdown in Fako division.
And the Cameroon government strives to reduce state expenditure, and the government has restricted trips abroad for top government officials. In a release issued by the Prime Minister, the government ministers, directors and heads of public parastatals will no longer be given authorization to travel abroad for seminars and other unnecessary events. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
The necessity to streamline the billions of francs CFA sunk in Cameroon every year in state operations is not a new debate across the country. President Paul Biya, aware of the fabulous lifestyle of some state officials and frightened by the growing scarcity of financial resources across the globe, told ministers on the 9th of December 2014 to streamline spendings and improve quality. He further regretted that the quality of public expenditure continually worsened with an accumulation of expenditure whose necessity he thinks is not evident. He said money is wasted on increased number of missions, especially abroad, multiplication of the number of committees and excessive increase in subsidies. As if nothing changed after President Paul Biya's declaration in 2014, Finance Minister came back on January 26, 2017 to draw the attention of his colleagues on the number, frequency and volume of missions out of Cameroon, and also on exaggerated spendings on fuel, water, electricity and telephone. The International Monetary Fund also expressed concerns over excessive public spendings in Cameroon and offered better options in its economic reforms, which experts say have not been fully implemented in Cameroon and other CEMAC member countries. In a more challenging political environment, coupled with the growing debt burden, the government has decided to restrict travels for top state officials. In a document dated April 5, 2019, the Prime Minister head of government said ministers of state, ministers, minister delegates, secretaries of state, directors and related service heads will no longer be issued authorization to travel out of Cameroon for seminars, conferences and prize award ceremonies, especially if the state has to incur the travel expenses.
Coming up, Immaculate Fogwe takes a look at the importance of holiday classes, especially for students in official examination classes. Her report.
It is more than a week that schools across Cameroon close for the second term break. But for students in examination classes like Lycée Jos and Lycée Mongo Joseph, all found in the economic capital Douala, sitting on their benches and receiving lectures remains an obligation for them. According to Zavid Belek, an upset student, holiday classes helps to enhance their knowledge and equally sharpen their skills.
For me, these studies are very important because they help me to ameliorate some things that I couldn't understand throughout the lessons in our weeks. So like in philosophy, I couldn't do what we call the introduction. So far as it wasn't my teacher who used to give me the lessons, I had another work who helped me to ameliorate that. So for me, it's very important.
For these other students, such classes are aimed at helping us to redouble our efforts, especially in subjects like mathematics, chemistry, and physics, which are proving to be a hard nut to crack. A teacher of the said institution equally adds that
l'enseignant en salle de classe devrait plutôt travailler sur ceux
holiday classes are aimed at ameliorating the level of understanding of those students who are facing difficulties in some subjects. This is to help them catch up with the syllables on time.
Pour rattraper ceux qui sont un peu plus avancés.
The third term, which is soon approaching and equally known as the shortest term, is a moment when these students are expected to dot their I's and cut their T's in preparation for their end of course examination.
The over 30,000 inhabitants in the Rumzu village in the Mogodi subdivision, Mayo Chanaga division of the Far North region of the Republic of Cameroon are now battling with cattle over water. They are fighting with cows over water, and the security of this precious liquid, the supply of this precious liquid is grossly inadequate. In
this cave is a little girl desperately searching for potable water. Sitting outside the cave with legs crossed is her mother, collecting what she fetches.
Water meant for consumption that looks like fermented palm wine. We are in Rumzu, a village with about 30,000 inhabitants, found in Mogode subdivision, Mayo Chanaga division of the far north region. Elsewhere in the village, the inhabitants share this detention basin with cattle that pollute and contaminate the water.
On se bagarre même avec les animaux.
They are left with no option as the available boreholes are dry and water pumps having nothing to pump out. Long distances are covered to fetch this contaminated water. There is abundant food to eat and share, but there is war over water between parents and kids. Also with the cattle.
Et certaines personnes même amènent leurs animaux de longue distance.
Local council authorities strive to rescue the population but call on governments to assist.
Nous demandons vraiment au gouvernement de voir notre problème.
They also open their hands to welcome support from non-governmental organizations.
Ils auront pitié, peut-être avoir pitié de nous. Un jour à l'autre, on ne sait jamais.
Rumzu is blessed and tops in Mogode subdivision in the cultivation of Irish potatoes, groundnuts, and other agricultural produce.
Out of Cameroon, over 20 persons have been killed in the fighting near the Libyan capital, Tripoli. Courtesy Euronews.
Video posted on social media purports to show rebel Libyan National Army forces preparing for an assault on Tripoli airport. The UN-backed government says 21 people have been killed and 27 injured in fighting around the capital. LNA forces under the command of General Khalifa Haftar have been steadily advancing from the east with the aim of taking control of the capital. Libya has suffered instability and violence since the downfall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. The country's Prime Minister, Fayez al-Sarraj, has accused Haftar of planning a coup. Government troops were reported to be moving towards the LNA lines on Saturday to counter their advance.
I mean, I don't see any lack of intent. I'm more concerned about capability, and that's where I'm not sure whether his forces are up to the task. I mean, he was able to take over much of the southwest. I mean, easily. Tripoli is going to be, he's going to face a lot of resistance. So we're looking at, a long, protracted conflict.
Other footage on social media appears to show an American vessel leaving a site near Tripoli. The US said the move was due to security conditions on the ground. A small contingent of American troops has been in Libya to help combat Islamic militant groups.
That's it for the first part of this newscast. Coming up next, Talking Point. We are receiving a special guest in this edition of the news. She is an award-winning journalist, a fearless reporter, and she calls for the liberation of all journalists arrested and detained in the Republic of Cameroon for doing their job. Meet Mimi Mefo Takambu.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Index. Thank you, everyone. I am Mimi Mefo Takambu, and I hail from the conflict-hit northwest and French-speaking west region of Cameroon. I have become one of the most persecuted journalists in Cameroon due to my constant reporting of what I would today describe as civil war that has so far ripped the English-speaking regions apart. That's the English-speaking community, unable for us as journalists to report about the situation of thousands of people being displaced in these two conflicted regions, the situation of people dying on a daily basis in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon, and we are unable to report about children unable to go to school. The regime has been using anti-terror and cyber crime laws to intimidate, threaten, and silence the media in Cameroon. I stopped publishing information, of course, on my Facebook and my website, like you saw, for several months because of constant threat and intimidation. But so far, as I speak now, I've continued to carry on with my reporting. Since 2017, at least 20 journalists have been arrested and jailed in Cameroon for doing their jobs. And I'm using this platform to call on the government of Cameroon to release all those journalists who are currently behind bars simply because they were doing their job. As we speak, the crisis remains highly underreported. I'm talking about the Anglophone crisis. Journalists are not guaranteed their safety if they have to travel to the conflicted regions of Cameroon for investigations, and access to information is highly problematic. A government which imprisons journalists, that is my message, is weak and scared of being exposed. And thank you. One of my most challenging moments, or the most challenging moments of my career, was in November 2017 when I was arrested, handcuffed as a common criminal, and imprisoned for reporting the killing of an American missionary in one of the conflicted regions. I was released 4 days later following an unprecedented national and international mobilization never seen before in Cameroon. But the response from journalists, I'm talking about the mobilization when I was arrested, tells me that others are prepared now to speak out about injustice and the problem of press freedom in my country. So this award is not just for me, it is for others who continue to stand for press freedom in Cameroon and without. It is a reminder that I must continue to do my job with objectivity, balance, and continue to be the voice of the voiceless. I would give more power, it will give me more power, of course, to advocate for press freedom and for the release of all my colleagues who are currently behind bars, because we have at least 5 journalists in jail. Thank you so much. Thank you, Index. Thank you for your support. Thank you for my family. And above all, thank God.
A press freedom crusader, a fearless reporter, one-time editor-in-chief or deputy editor-in-chief in charge of the English desk of Equinox Radio and Television. She won the 2019 Index Prize or Censorship Freedom of Expression Journalism Award. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Goodbye.